Imagine being born as such a beautiful baby boy, but then through the trials and tribulations that you go through just in your early adolescent life, it turns you literally into a devil. And welcome back to the best new storytelling channel on YouTube. Keyword new. Not the best yet, we know who those are. I'm coming for you, but I got a great story for you today. Now, you ever heard of the Red Devil? No? Well, let's get into the weeds with it. What do you think? As of now, it's time to slip into a mind that's not our own. Let's go.
If you like true crime, you better subscribe to Mystery Files.
Jesse Pomeroy was born in Charlestown, Massachusetts on November 29, 1859. Relax, guys, I'm not going to tell the whole story like that, but some of you know I am, or grew up most of my life south of Boston, so I got that accent. I just try to get rid of it for you people. But if you want more of the accent, let me know in the comments. All right. Jesse Pomeroy was born in Charlestown, Massachusetts on November 29, 1859, and from the very beginning, he didn't fit in. A defect in his right eye set him apart. It was like this white film, so thick and unappealing that covered his pupil. The people who crossed his path were revolted by him. Now, these people just weren't strangers. They included his father, and at school, Jesse became the target of many jokes, bullied viciously by those bigger, taller, and stronger than himself. And in turn, he bullied those who were smaller than him, shorter, and weaker as well. He was sort of a loner, preferring to spend his time reading the cheap dime novels published at that time. Stories full of blood, sex, and gore, wars, battles, and mayhem, the equivalent of today's violent video games. He had a brother named Charles who was older by 17 months, and he ignored him. And his father, Thomas Pomeroy, frequently beat him up with a horsewhip or a leather belt, often demanding that he strip completely naked so to inflict as much punishment on his bare skin as possible. The only person in Jesse's life who offered a measure of comfort, or at the very least understanding, was his mother, Ruth Ann Pomeroy. She believed her son's issues were due to bullying, and if others could just stop bullying him, then he would stop bullying others. Even when he began to torture and kill small animals, Ruth Ann saw this as a sign of sadness. In late 1871, in the city of Chelsea, just across the river from Charlestown, children began to suffer vicious beatings at the hands of a boy some described as bigger, taller, and stronger than they were. Some were even sexually assaulted as well. The boy would befriend them. Then he would offer them some money and some treats and accompany them to these remote locations, and there is where he would have his way with them. And he became known as the boy torturer, or the Red Devil. Now, a description of the boy was subsequently published in the Boston Globe, which Ruth Ann Pomeroy read and recognized. Immediately, she transferred the family to South Boston. Then, in August of 1872, a young boy was found tortured on the sands of South Boston. That following September, another child was discovered beaten, assaulted, and tied up to a telephone post, also in South Boston. But unlike the rest of the victims, this latest one gave a very good description of the assailant, including the fact that he had a very peculiar right eye, a white eye that resembled a marble. Because of this description, Jesse Pomeroy was arrested, and due to his age, he was sentenced to the state reform school at Westboro for the term of his minority, which was 6 years. And though the inhabitants of Boston were relieved, Ruth Ann Pomeroy had other plans in mind. You see, through her social strength and her connections, Jessie was actually released only a few months later, to the detriment of the community. Then, on March 18th, 1874, Katie Curran disappeared from her home in South Boston, and she had gone out to buy a notebook and was never seen again. And upon inquiry, it was discovered the last place she had been was the Pomeroy shop where Jessie worked. And the place was searched and Jessie was interrogated, but nothing was found. About 5 weeks after Katie's disappearance on April 23rd, 1874, on the beaches of South Boston, two brothers, George and James Power, had gone there in search of clams for the day. But you see, when they got there, they kind of miscalculated the tide's arrival, so they just ended up took around wandering the area in search of other, potential treasures. And as they were looking, what they found instead was nothing short of a horrible nightmare that nobody on this planet should ever have to come across. It was a small child that was left inside a ditch, nearly naked. Numerous stab wounds crisscrossed the child's body, one of which ran from his neck from end to end. And then it appeared that a sharp object was actually shoved into one of their eyes. Now, while his man parts had been nearly severed, the body also had been set on fire. And it was the body of a young boy named Horace Millen. Then, when brought to the police, it was found that Jesse Pomeroy had blood on his clothes, scratches on his skin, and the sole of his boots matched the imprints that were left on the sand of that beach. People wanted to know why a child had committed such atrocities. I mean, a tangible reason why Jesse Pomeroy had done what he had done. Experts were hired, and much like in today's trials where children are involved, each expert had their own answer. Jesse must have suffered from some kind of familial mental illness, although despite some thorough investigations, none was found in his relatives. So he was the product of a broken family, they said. Indeed, his parents were separated, and when they'd been together, there had been plenty of physical and mental abuse. He was bullied, they concluded, which had caused him to be a bully and want to kill others. Perhaps he was jealous, they said. Jealous of the children's beauty and loving homes. And maybe he had just been merely reenacting the violence he had seen depicted in the dime novels, much like psychologists today believe children react to the violence they see depicted on television. And since I am on your television right now, or your TV, maybe your tablet, probably not, most likely your phone, if you don't mind to just pause this video for 1 second, and if you like true crime, you like the mysterious, or you like paranormal, please make sure to hit that subscribe button right now, turn on all for notifications. While you're at it, slap that like button. Okay, so like I said, the violence that could be depicted on television, but perhaps he had just been born bad. The truth was, all of the explanations were plausible reasons. And you see, Jesse Pomeroy was not a singular case. It seems that we have some disciples on our hands. Because following in his footsteps in 1924, Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb, teenagers themselves, kidnapped and murdered Bobby Franks just to see what it would feel like to kill. Then, with even more acolytes, in the 1960s, Mary Flora Bell, together with her friend Norma Bell, barely children themselves, killed 4-year-old Martin Brown. Also, for the sheer fun of it. I mean, in 1983, Cindy Colliner and Shirley Wolf, 15 and 14 respectively, prowled condominiums in the search of victims they could rob and stab to death for fun. And in 1999, not too long ago, 11-year-old Nathaniel Abraham was arrested for the shooting death of 18-year-old Ronnie Green. They are members of a group that is large and becoming larger. And although psychologists prefer not to label children and young adults who commit such crimes as psychopaths, they have come up with a pattern of behavior that falls under that umbrella of that disorder for sure. Parents, are you listening? If you are, listen a little closer. These disorders include traits such as failure to attach meaning to the lives of others, a grandiose feeling of self-importance, cruelty towards others, cruelty towards animals, especially troublesome if starting at a young age. Also, lack of empathy and remorse, lack of friendships, and a propensity for telling lies. Jesse Pomeroy displayed all of these traits, along with many others. Although he was found guilty for the murder of Horace Millen, and eventually that of Katie Curran, and sentenced to death, his sentence was commuted to life in prison, to be spent in solitary confinement. And on September 7th, 1876, just 3 months shy of his 17th birthday, that's when he was locked up in Massachusetts State Prison in Charlestown, where he grew into adulthood and into old age behind the walls of solitary confinement, spending the longest stretch in such a facility, second only to the Birdman of Alcatraz. Now, if you enjoyed this, please make sure to subscribe and also like this video. And if you're in the mood to watch a little more, please click here, here, here. I will see you guys next time. Peace.